all of you. So my name is Thomas Poulin, and I did my senior project this year on the reintegration of veterans into society that struggle with post-traumatic stress disorder. That was for my research portion. For the actual project portion, I hosted a fundraising event, which I'll get into later. So I'd like to start by defining post-traumatic stress disorder and giving you some background information on it. The Mayo Clinic defines PTSD as a mental health condition that's triggered by a terrifying event. Pretty self-explanatory. It can be diagnosed either through experiencing an event or witnessing it. And oftentimes, veterans, when they're in combat, will experience these traumatic events. And what is unique about post-traumatic stress disorder is that it's makes it very difficult to reintegrate back into normal life after you've experienced something like this. So veterans will go out to war and then come back with symptoms including flashbacks, unreasonable anger and anxiety, nightmares, feeling nervous, hopeless, or even fearful. And one really specific symptom of PTSD that I'd like to focus on today for this presentation is the deterioration of relationships that people have, that veterans have with people back in normal society and civilian life. And the symptoms that I've just listed can make it very difficult for veterans to come back into civilian life and find a job and work in a workplace with other people or have relationships with their family. And really with post-traumatic stress disorder is that it can vary very widely among everyone affected, so that one person may experience post-traumatic stress disorder in many flashbacks, whereas another person could have a completely different symptom and experience no other symptoms that other people may experience. And really, that's what's unique about post-traumatic stress disorder, is that it is unique to each individual. So that can make the treatment of PTSD very difficult. And that's really what I focused on, was that reintegration, the treatment of veterans when they're coming back. Now, because PTSD is so unique, there is no one set way to treat veterans with PTSD. There's no one set treatment. And through my research, I found that there's actually a wide, varied list of treatments available for veterans. And so I'd like to start by defining the problem. Let's see. The VA, the Veterans Affairs, a government association, estimates that PTSD affects 31% of Vietnam veterans, 10% of Desert Storm veterans, and 11% of veterans from the Afghanistan War. And the consequences of this is that the veterans that are affected with PTSD have trouble coming back, like I mentioned. And oftentimes they'll find themselves homeless, as you can see the statistics here, homeless with a substance abuse problem, or finding themselves unemployed. All problems stemming from struggling to reintegrate back into normal life. And so what we have is we have conflict, which the US has a long history of, we all know that. And that leads to veterans with PTSD, which leads to veterans that need to return home. They can't serve forever, although many are redeployed and are deployed multiple times. It can still be very difficult to come back into normal life after experiencing something like conflict. And so what can we do to help the people that are coming back that don't fit into society? And I found a few ways that we can do that. One of which is vocational rehabilitation, which is a program that was created by the Veteran VA, the Veteran Affairs, and it's a treatment that is used to provide veterans with disabilities that are too severe to normally reintegrate into life, such as PTSD or perhaps physical injuries from conflict. They find themselves back with disabilities that are too severe for them to immediately consider work or to find work. And the vocational rehabilitation will take these veterans and basically improve their lives down to a point where they can live as independently as possible. They can help them through services such as counseling, employment services, helping to find a job, and even on-the-job training that is all provided through this program called Vet Success. To take a different approach on treatment, another thing I found was a program called BrainSafe, which is a treatment on the completely other side of the spectrum, which is taken more from a scientific standpoint and looking at the problem instead of with therapy and instead looking at it in a more scientific therapeutical standpoint. And specifically, I looked at Cleo DeLoner. She's an Army veteran that served in Somalia in the 90s and was involved in an ambush that left her with a very severe brain injury. And when she returned home, she had the same telltale signs of PTSD and experienced the same problems that many people have with the reintegration of society. And so she found help in this program called BrainSync. It's a program out of California that takes veterans suffering with PTSD and, let's see. It's a unique, what BrainSync does is it uses a unique form of neurotherapy, which uses electromagnetic signals to help correct dysfunctional brain waves. These dysfunctional brain waves are associated with PTSD and can be treated to actually help with some of the symptoms of PTSD. Tracy Hoover, which is the co-founder of BrainSafe, said that after the very first treatment, DeLoner's, her suicidal ideations and her PTSD symptoms quickly abated. In fact, it only took her 56 days after starting treatment to see many improvements in her symptoms. Another form of treatment that I studied was a form of treatment that Tim Seckel, he was an Army veteran during the Desert Storm era. He found that he suffered injuries, both physical and mental, in a bombing in Baghdad, and that he was so far to the point where they thought he would never walk again, they thought he would never be able to function within society. And he came back and he found that doing something like target shooting, in this case, really helped him cope and really helped him find solace in dealing with PTSD. And so what he did was he organized a shooting team, Defenders of Freedom shooting team, and he took veterans that had similar symptoms to him out into various widespread locations, way out off the grid, and just did some target shooting. Just spent some time with veterans and spent some time with people that they could relate to. And he found that just in the simple action of going out there with people that they can relate to and people that they understand can be very therapeutic in helping them cope with their symptoms. Oftentimes veterans have trouble reconnecting. Veterans with PTSD have trouble reconnecting to people here at home, so it's helpful for them to be able to connect and spend time with those that have experienced something similar to them. Which leads me into my involvement. Like I mentioned before, I hosted a fundraising event at a local gun club, Pioneer Sportsman. What I did was, after learning about what Tim Seckel did with the shooting, I thought, well, maybe I could try to use a resource like Pioneer Sportsman to involve competitive shooting into doing something beneficial for veterans, just as Tim Seckel did. And that came in the form of Aiming for Zero, which is a subsidiary program of an organization called Active Heroes. Basically what the organization does is that they take funds and they funnel them and they channel them into veteran support services such as vocational rehabilitation, such as employment services. And so basically what the event is that you host an event, have a bunch of people come out and shoot targets for a day. It doesn't have to be veterans, it doesn't have to be anybody with any military service connected, but they come out and shoot some targets for a day. And the ways that we raise money by doing that is that, of course, there's a fee for going to the event, And we also sold some raffle tickets. We had a great array of raffle items that we all gave away, that we collected with very generous donations from various organizations, and we sold raffle tickets, and basically what it came out to was, it was $5,200. The event raised $5,200 that we gave to Aiming for Zero, and that's really how I like to measure my success in doing the project, is the monetary gain, and how much did we physically raise that went directly into supporting veterans. I'd like to give a special thanks to, of course, Mrs. Aubin, Nancy Smith, my mentor, and then Chris Tessier and Seneca Higgins, two people at the club that were extremely helpful in setting up the event and really helping me organize and make it a really successful one. And of course, thanks to everyone who helped out at the event. My family did a lot of work there and helped out volunteering, like selling raffle tickets and setting up the targets and everything. I had a lot of help. It was made it very easy. And so I'd like to wrap up and basically go over how this impacted me. And really, this project really pushed me outside of my comfort zone. I had never tried doing something like this before in my life, organizing a large-scale event to make an impact in the community. I've never really gone out of my way to communicate with strangers, with people that I've never met before, like the people at the gun club. I've never gone out of my way to do something like that before, and this project was a way for me to do that. And I'm grateful for the opportunity to do it, and it was a really great experience.